Shalom Israel, it's your brother Marcus G, back with yet another truth for thought. First and foremost, I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. Secondly, the prayer list. Starting it off, of course, with I'm going to start it off with King Ricky, aka King Pretty Ricky. I also want to, at the very top here, bring forth King Shalom Israel. And I want to personally give a personal thank you to a family, you know who you are if you're here, who personally donated to our beloved brother, King Shalom Israel. His information will be in the description of this Truth for Thought. Also, and I ask that you keep them in your prayer. I ask Israel that you keep Queen Piper, Queen India, Queen Roxanne, and Queen Orlando in your prayer. Israel, I ask you keep them in your prayer. I also ask that you keep the Ellis family, that is King Charles Ellis Sr., Queen Sydney Ellis, and King Charles Ellis Jr. I ask Israel, you keep them in your prayer. Also, I ask that you keep in prayer, and this was a request made here recently, to Queen Tony Mims and her family. Israel, I ask that you keep them in your prayer, as well as my beloved brother, King Kemar. All praises to the Most High King. I didn't hear from you this Sabbath. It kind of alarmed me. I'm going to send you a message as soon as I finish recording. Israel, I ask that you keep him in your prayer, as well as my beloved family in the truth, those being my beloved grandmother, Queen Raya Ellis. Israel, I ask that you keep her in your prayer. Both my beloved mothers in the truth, Queen Valerie and Queen Paula. Israel, I ask that you keep them in your prayer, as well as my beloved aunt, Queen Shay. Israel, I ask that you keep all of them in your prayers. I also ask that you keep in prayer King Joshua, Queen Ashley, Queen Brittany, and Queen Crystal. All right, now down to the married couple. I want to ask that you keep King Ben and Queen Cassandra in your prayer, as well as King Jermaine and Queen Kenya. Queen Kenya and King Jermaine, I haven't heard from y'all as far as an update, but I'm still awaiting, just waiting to hear from you all. Israel, I ask you keep them in your prayer. King Diamond and Queen Lashonda, Israel, I ask that you keep them in your prayer. King Greg and Queen Sharon, as well as King Brian, Queen Shavonda, and of course, the new couple that I mentioned once, maybe twice so far, that are betrothed to be married. Though those two being King Aaron and Queen Andrea. Israel, I ask that you keep them all wrapped in prayer. So now, y'all see the list getting longer. Now that we got the prayer list out, and if there's anyone that you know that need to be added to the prayer list, please feel free to contact me either on Instagram, and I will definitely add them, no problem at all. Let's get into this truth for thought. Now, to one of my beloved that I actually just talked about and just mentioned in the prayer list, she and I went over something that plays a major role in this particular truth for thought. And it's something that I'm going to do a lesson on. It's something that many have been anticipating me do a lesson on, and I'm going to do it. It's actually going to be a total of 5. Initially, I said 4, and that's on the 12 tribe chart. The reason being, there are still people, even in the truth, who have, and I'm going to call it what it is, a misunderstanding when it comes to the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. You will always hear me say to the so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives. There is a reason for that, as they comprise, as you know it, on this side of the hemisphere. Notice that I'm saying that. That's something that a lot of my peers, not that they neglect to, but they just don't mention that. It's very important that you understand that the chart as you see it here on the Western Hemisphere is made up the way that it is because it's directly a result of the 12 tribes of Israel that are here on the Western Hemisphere. All right. Not saying that that's all of Israel, but the representatives of those 12 tribes on this side of the hemisphere, that chart is accurate. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to do a very in-depth truth for thought on the 12 tribes. And initially I was going to do 4 parts, each part being 3 hours long, taking 1 hour for each tribe. But I'm going to do a 5th part, a preface, that's going to include something that I'm going to go into now. All right. Because Israel, we have to walk back in time to fully understand. At one point in time, the kingdom of Israel was one kingdom. However, as time progressed, and Israel, or the greater majority of Israel, were being Israel, exactly what the Most High said, a very rebellious, sottish, stiff-necked people. So over time, the Most High rented the kingdom away. Remember me saying that here today? I will be going into that again then. When he rendered the kingdom away, it was now broken into 2 kingdoms. Still one nation, still 12 tribes, right? There was the northern kingdom and there was the southern kingdom. Why is this important when it comes to this truth for thought? Because in the northern kingdom were basically 9 of the 12 tribes. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people going to say, but in the Bible, it says something about 10 tribes. I can explain that as the Bible explains that. Why it's referred to as 10 tribes, which was the northern kingdom. And I will do that when I do the 12 tribe chart breakdown. And I will even tell you the title of that particular series of lessons. It's going to be the complete nation of Israel, colon, the 12 tribe chart breakdown. Okay. Now, with that, the northern kingdom had 9 tribes in it. All right. And we're moving further in history. So at one point in time, the kingdom was one kingdom. As time went on, the kingdom split to 2 kingdoms. In the northern kingdom, in the southern kingdom, there was Judah, there was Benjamin, and there was Levi. Just to keep it simple, all the other 9 tribes were in the north. In the south, or in the southern kingdom, Judah ruled over the southern kingdom. And this is after the split, or after the kingdom was rendered away. In the northern kingdom, Ephraim ruled the northern kingdom. All right. So again, King Marcus, why is that important? Well, because what we're going to go in today, and what this wicked, worldly holiday is about, in actuality, is some things that definitely happen to 2 of those 9 tribes of the northern kingdom. All right. Those being Reuben and Gad. But before I really get into it, I want to go to the Bible. And I only have one foundational, well, it's 5 scriptures, but I only have one place for foundational scriptures for this particular truth for thought. So if you would, turn with me, and I'm going to share my screen to it, to your 1611 King James Version of the Bible with the Apocrypha. And let's get into it. Again, we taking baby steps into it, all right? Let's go to 2 Thessalonians. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And I'm going to get verses 3 through 8. And this is the only thing that's going to be foundational for this truth for thought. And it actually, I'm going to be echoing a sentiment that our beloved brother, or our beloved forebrother, Paul mentions when he writes this epistle or letter to the church of Thessalonia. All right. So we're going to get verses 3 through 8. Listen very carefully, Israel. Let no man deceive you by any means. For that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. I'm about to reveal, Israel, to you just one of your enemies' wicked history. Just one instance of one of your enemies' wicked history with you, Israel, as a whole, as I'm speaking to all 12 tribes of Israel in regards to the tribes of Reuben and Gad. We're going to look at, I'm going to reveal to you how one biblical nation for sure And this is not the only biblical nation that has charges against them being held by the Most High. There are 17 of them that have charges against them in regards to things that they acts committed, the accessory to acts committed. For whatever part the 17 of only 18 biblical nationalities played their role, right? But I'm going to reveal to you one of them. Just one today. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshiped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, shewing himself that he is God. This nation that I'm talking about, there's a picture of one of them. The son of one of them, Caesar Borgia. He's the son of one of this particular biblical nationality that I'm going to reveal a little bit more about them and their history with Israel as a whole. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. Paul said, remember when I was with you, I told you about these things. Okay. Verse 6, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. We are creeping up on the time of the return of the Son of Man. And here lately, I mentioned this in the Daniel 7 breakdown. I went from the Daniel 7 breakdown to giving in to mirth. That was for a reason. You're going to see. Because we're talking about a hella day where hella mirth happens. I even, in that Truth for Thought about giving in to mirth, and I'll have the link in the description, just in case you haven't seen it. I said there are righteous times to give in to mirth and very unrighteous times to give in to mirth. And I simply ask Israel, is this the time to be giving in to mirth? Right? I gave the definition of mirth and everything. And I hope that everyone paid attention that did see that lesson to the biblical meaning of mirth, especially that last line of that definition. That last line says, it is directly related to the loud giving of noise and not that of joyfulness. Just in case, just to remind some people. All right. Let me keep going. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, prophecy. That means prophecy. So there are written prophecies about this people that I'm going to reveal. And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, as bright, as flickering flames. Remember that. Light is fire. And it's going to burn just like fire. So that is all of the foundation for this truth for thought. That there will be a revealing of some things, because I'm sure there are some things that I'm going to cover. Even people in the truth probably didn't know. I know because I've been told by some people in the truth. That has been proven. Not saying that it will definitely happen again, but it has been proven that some people in the truth didn't know some of the things that I'm going to be bringing out. But I'm going to definitely bring it out. Now, from that, remember what I was saying about the splitting of the kingdom into two. I want to visit that because there are some nuggets there that must be revealed. So let's do it. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 13. 2nd Esdras, and we're going to get chapter 13. We're going to read verses 40 through 45. Okay? 40 through 45, just for the sake of time. It's going to be a doozy. It's going to be one, Israel. Get your pens and paper ready. Definitely be ready to receive some things. All right. Verse 40. Remember I said, but King Marcus, it reads about 10 tribes. I'm going to break that down when I actually do the 12 tribe chart. Break down so that will be properly understood. There is a queen, however, that if she's here, she understands this. I know it. We just went over it not too long ago. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king. This is Hosea. And you can actually read about this in the book of Hosea. But let's keep going. I'm going to break that down again with the 12 tribe chart. That's going to be part of it. Whom Salmanazar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. This is talking about the northern kingdom when they were captors during the Assyrian domination. Now remember in Daniel 7, the very first beast that Daniel saw was the Babylonian captivity, but he made mention of the feathers of a man being plucked off, where it was just a man. And I showed you all the symbol for the Assyrian symbol, and it looks like a man with feathers. But because they had been captured or they had been sacked, the best way that it could be projected was, now it's simply a man. The wings have been cut off. It's no longer the domination. It is now being dominated. The Assyrian captivity happened, and that happened during the Assyrian dominance. So then the Babylonian dominance happened, and guess what? Assyria was no more dominant. But this is talking about when the northern kingdom was taken captive during the Assyrian dominance. Let's keep going. But they took this counsel. These tribes took a counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country. Remember that. Where never mankind dwelt. Remember that. That is not here by irony or coincidence. And I'm going to reference this a little later. I'm going to reference where never mankind dwelt. That's where the northern kingdom took counsel and said, that's where we're going to go. Right? This is why they said they're going to go there, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So they're taking accountability in this council. They're taking accountability, saying, we read about it, we were told about it. Keep the law, statutes, and commandments, or this would happen. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to a new land where no man has ever dwelt, so that there we may keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. Let's keep going. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then shewed signs for them. So the Most High is leading their steps as they're going to this new land where no man ever dwelt. He's ordering their steps. He's paving the way for them to get there. And hell stilled the flood till they were passed over. For through that country, so the country they was coming through, there was a great way to go. They had a long way to go. They wasn't going on a 5-mile hike. They finna travail some terrain, and you're going to see there's proof in it. Namely, of a year and a half. It was going to take them it took them a year and a half to get from where they were to where they were going. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And the same region is called Esdras. Okay? So the northern kingdom, all 9 tribes, basically all 9 tribes. A lot of Simeon, I will say this, some of Simeon escaped Assyria and went down south to the southern kingdom. I will say that. Some of Simeon made it. Pretty much all the rest of the tribes outside of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who were in the south, pretty much everyone else of the northern kingdom, except for a few of Simeon. Got away. We're in Assyrian captivity. They come into counsel with one another. They say, we finna leave from amongst all these heathens. We finna get clean away from them. Right? The Most High was with them on that. And he ordered their steps. And he paved their way. And for a year and a half, it took them to travel to get to this new place where no man had ever dwelt. All right? That's per the Bible. Not me. Per the Bible. So now, I want to stop sharing my screen. Because I'm going to share my screen to something else. All right? To a new screen. All right? So, you see what the title is, right? You heard what I just went over about the northern kingdom, right? And I said they will be addressing some things that happened to part of Israel, two tribes of Israel, to be exact, those being Reuben and Gad, which they were part of the northern kingdom, which came from Assyrian captivity to a long way that away. Now, this is the east of me. That is the west. They went a long way, a year and a half travel to the west. Keep that in mind, Israel, because I will tell you, they crossed the west. They was in the western hemisphere of the world. I'm going to be addressing it again in the 12 tribe chart. Breakdown that preferably I will get around to doing soon. Okay. But you see, we're talking about this holiday that the world calls Thanksgiving. So I want to get a few definitions. All right. I want to get the definition of thanks. It is to express gratitude to, or sometimes to emphasize a preceding statement, especially by implying that it is not subject to question. Not subject to question. That's like being declared or decreed. Remember that word, decree. Using such phrases as thank God, thank goodness, usually without a subject to express gratitude, or more often, only the speaker or writer's pleasures or satisfaction in something to hold responsible, right? That's what it says, okay? Now let's see the definition of giving. To make a present of, to grant or bestow by formal action, to accord or yield to another, to put, oh my goodness, it's moving fast, to put into the possession of another for his or her use. I want you to keep definition 3 and commit that one to memory. To put into the possession of another for his or her use. Now, usually this is a willing gesture. Okay? Keep that in mind. When someone gives, they usually are doing this willingly. So we're going to be looking at thanks fucking giving, this wicked holiday, right? Let's look at where those 10 tribes went. But we're only going to look at 2 of those tribes, those being Reuben and Gad. Even though all 10 of those tribes went to the same places, they arrived in North, Central, and South America. The Most High ordered their steps to what you know today as North, Central, and South America. I will prove it. I'm not going to go through it right now. That is for the 12 tribe chart series of lessons. But let's look at where they resided, especially here in what you know as the United States of America, And I have it right here for you to see. I'm going to blow it up a little bit so that you can see. Wait a minute. I don't want to blow it up too big. That pretty much everywhere in what you know as the United States of America, so were representatives of two tribes of Israel in Reuben and Gad. That's just the truth. Let's see. Maybe. Let's see if this is not the case. We'll look at another source. It's looking pretty much the same. It's looking pretty much the same. I want you all actually on this one, I want you to look to the far east of the map, the right side of the map. And I want you to notice over here where you see Massachusetts. Well, Massachusetts, isn't that where a certain somebody landed? Because in 1492, there was somebody who sailed the ocean blue, and they supposedly landed in the New World land where man had ever dwelt. They titled it the New World. Is there irony or coincidence in that? Because that was somewhere that man had never dwelt, per the Bible. Not per me, per the Bible. Take this back. There's a reason I had you to kind of look towards that right side of the map. But as you can see, the whole map is basically occupied even up into the Canada. What you know as Canada. Look at that. Look at Mexico. Look at Mexico. I promise you, I am going to get into that. I promise you. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got my people for sure. I will help my people out. Let's look at this. Let's see if it changed. Everywhere you can see, it's nothing but natives. Look at, because a lot of things, one of the biggest stigmas that my people have, they want to go off of a color. Okay, well, let's look at the representation of the color of said people. I'll show you where you see a white person or a person of non-melanated descent. Way up here in the top right where you see a boat about to make port. There's this guy right here as they landed on what they call Plymouth Rock. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I just want you to see this. I just want you to see this. Now, here I have a copy of the crew of the manifest of Christopher Columbus's ship. Why, King Marcus, you might ask, would you have a copy of Christopher Columbus's manifest of personnel from his ship? Let's see. Because I'm going to say again, the Northern Kingdom came a year and a half. They traveled by foot a year and a half away from captivity, right? I didn't say it. The Bible said it. But watch what history is finna say to you. Christopher Columbus's crew on the first voyages were from small towns from Andalusia, and nearly all experienced seamen. The Spanish sovereigns, there's a difference between Hispanic and Spanish. There's a difference between Hispanic and Spaniard. As much of a difference as Hispanic and Portuguese, or Hispanic and Dutch, or Hispanic and Jewish. There's a huge difference in Hispanic and all of those. Remember that, please. Remember that. Let me keep going. The Spanish sovereigns offered amnesty. Listen to this. Listen to how his crew was put together. All but one person. I promise you, I'm going to get on it. I'm going to touch that. All but one of his seamen were put together because of this. Listen to this. This is going to tell you now, the Christopher Columbus is of a certain biblical nationality. Remember when I said about the revealing of a son of perdition. Maybe I should have got that definition for y'all too, perdition. I tell you what, I task y'all with getting the definition of the term perdition. It's nothing good about it, I'll tell you that. But Christopher Columbus is a descendant. He's one of the sons of perdition that I'm going to be mentioning today. The Spanish sovereigns offered amnesty to convicts who signed up for the voyage. So basically, people that sailed under his leadership were convicts. In fact, convicted murderers. Let's prove it. But only 4 men took up the offer. One who had killed a man in a fight, and 3 of his friends who then helped him escape from jail. A murderer and his accomplices. Of the 4 voyages of Columbus, only the crew of the first voyage is completely known. And this is key because the first voyage sets the precedence for the rest of his voyages. So his manifest of his first voyage here is going to be reciprocated for his other voyages, especially if it's deemed a successful voyage. Let's keep reading. Alice Bashugul spent decades combining various archives in Spain from Spaniards, eventually accounting for each of the 87 crewmen of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. That's much I want to say about that. I want to read up there because we're going to go down here. We're going to see the crew of the Santa Maria. Right. Of course, you got Cristobal Colon. That's who the world calls Christopher Columbus. He was the captain or the general. You have Juan de la Cosa, the owner and master. Is it irony or coincidence that the word master is used here? I'll ask you, and I'll leave that with you to ponder on. You have Diego de Arama, the master at arms. You have Pedro de Gutierrez, a royal steward. You have Rodrigo de Escobedo, the secretary of the fleet. You have Rodrigo Sanchez, the comptroller. You have Diego de Salcedo, a servant of Columbus. Columbus had on his ship a slave with an Hispanic name. He wasn't the only, though. Watch this. Luis de Torres, interpreter. So, Israel, I ask you, why did Christopher or Cristobal Colon need an interpreter? And I'll give you a little time to think about it before I actually tell you. I'll wait. Okay, by this time, hopefully somebody done type something in the live chat. Because who Cristobal Colon came selling for was the Northern Kingdom. But there was a problem. Christopher Colon doesn't speak Hebrew like all the 9 tribes of the Northern Kingdom did. He didn't write Hebrew like all the 9 tribes of the Northern Kingdom did. No different than the 3 tribes and part of Simeon that were in the Southern Kingdom. He needed an interpreter. Well, there would be a communication barrier, which there definitely still ended up being. Now, if you do a little research into Thanksgiving, you'll see about this Indian name, Squato. I didn't put nothing about Squato in this. I'm going to tell you of it. I task you, prove me wrong. Prove that this is not the case, and I'm going to tell you. You can even go on YouTube and learn about this. Squato was an Indian, but not here. He was a native, but he didn't reside here. You see, Squato was a slave. He was a native that was a slave. He was brought here to do the exact same thing that Luis de Torres did. Interpret. But see, Squato happened when the quote unquote Puritans and Pilgrims came. Remember, I said quote unquote Puritans and Pilgrims. Right? I'm talking about, I'm a little further back in time before the Puritans and them came, because this was 1492. Remember that. This was in the 1400s, late 14, head into the 1500s. Right? And he needed an interpreter that spoke and wrote Hebrew. But why, if all of the Hebrew writing and speaking people were on the other end of the earth? No, they were not. The Northern Kingdom had moved to the western end of the earth when they escaped Assyrian captivity. Now, as I said, like Luis de Torres did here, he was interpreted. So did Squato, right? So now I want to go back to the Bible. I wanted to pull all that first, so we have a backdrop leading into as things get a little more detailed in regards to this holiday. So let me stop sharing my screen. We're going to go back to the Bible. we're going to go back to the Bible. Now, the reason we're going back to the Bible, remember I told you to remember that word decree? Right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10. And we're going to get verses 1 and 2. Only verses 1 and 2. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. So this is woe unto any man that decrees an unrighteous decree and write grievousness which the men or men themselves have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people. Whoa. This is significant that a certain entity is speaking. That widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Why would they be fatherless? Because they killed the fathers. Killed a bunch of them. Enslaved a bunch of them. Robbed them all. Raped a lot of the widows. But remember that word decree, because now I want to go and I want to look at a couple of decrees. A couple of righteous decrees, because you see here it says that decree unrighteous decree. I want to look at a couple of righteous decrees. Okay. Let's go. First, I want to say, and my beloved sister Queen Carly, just yesterday, I didn't know she was going to talk about this. She didn't know I was going to mention this either. She just brought this out just yesterday. But let's examine it. Let's go to First Maccabees. Let's go to First Maccabees. First Maccabees. And we're going to get chapter 2 and verse 41. Let's hear what a righteous decree, let's see how it looks and hear what one sounds like. At the time, therefore, they decreed, this is talking about Israelites, whoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Now, I'm not going to go into the full account of this. I will have the link to Queen Carly's Queen Circle that she did yesterday, where she went into this, right? This actual account, right? But there's a decree here. It's a righteous decree by righteous Israelites, right? I want to go a little further. Let's go over to chapter 4. And we're going to drop down to verse 59. Let's see what this says. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, the whole congregation of Israel, ordained or decreed that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness. This is one of the times to give in to mirth and gladness. I told y'all that lesson last week was for a reason. Because I'm telling you, this Thanksgiving worldly holiday is not a time to give in to mirth. And I'm going to prove to you why. I'm going to show you that that was an unrighteous decree to keep such a day. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's go look at a decree by the Most High himself. Let's go to Leviticus 23, because this is about a high holy day. This is about the Feast of Dedications. This is what Queen Carly went in on just yesterday. Right? She read from Maccabees. Beautiful, beautiful story. If you've not read this account of the dedication of the altars, the tearing down of the bullshit that the heathens had put up in the altars, and the tearing down of said altars and dedicating the altars the way that they should be to the Most High. If you've not read that, I implore you, you can tune in to, and I will have the link to Queen Carly's lesson in the description. You can go through that account with her as she goes through it with you. I want to go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, because that's a high holy day or feast day, right? Let's go to Leviticus 23. We're going to get verses 1 and 2. No, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say to them concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. That is a decree. But watch this. The decree gets a little steeper, or a little more detailed. 6 days shall work be done, but the Sabbath day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Listen to how detailed this decree is. These are the feasts of the Lord's, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season. There's a decree there, a very righteous decree, not an unrighteous one that the world, actually not even the world, that Abraham Lincoln decreed. Is a day to be observed. Incorrect. As many of people of melanated descent, I'll even go as far as say people of Israelite descent, felt like, thought, believed, it was their opinion that Abraham Lincoln was for people of Israelite descent. You are incorrect. He helped keep you in sin. Because you might be in the truth right now, but prior to being in the truth, how many Thanksgivings did you observe? Well, it was decreed by him that you observe it. The Bible, when we read back in Isaiah chapter 10, said, woe to him. Now, that ain't the first time the Most High gonna say woe to these. And Abraham Lincoln is of this same biblical nationality that I'm gonna be doing some revealing about today. And this is not the first woe that we gonna read to the very said nation All right. So now I want to go and we're going to get some stuff. We're going to get a lot of stuff from the world, but I want to stay in the Bible for right now. Let's go to Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12. Remember, just doing a little revealing of a certain biblical nationality. Job chapter 12, we're going to get verses 5 and 6. Watch this. Let's see what the Bible says. He that is ready to slip with his feet is as a lamp despised in the thoughts of him that is at ease. That's what you that's a lot of people to just sum that up. They think they're smarter than they are. They try to take crafty counsel. They think they slicker than a can of oil. They think they can trick a trick that they can fool a fool. But watch this next verse. The tabernacles of robbers. Remember that word tabernacles. The tabernacles of robbers prosper, and they that provoke God, just like we read of this same biblical nationalities, hey, they put one of their faces up as the face of the Son of the Most High. Provoking the Most High. Are secure, meaning they well off. Into whose hands, though? God bringeth abundant. Remember that word tabernacle. Please remember that. That word tabernacle means house, the house of robbers, right? We're going to start zeroing in on a certain tabernacle with the Bible. Let's go to Sirach. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus. Let's go to Sirach. Ecclesiasticus chapter 1 and verse 29. Ecclesiasticus chapter 1 and 29. Be not an hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. A man by the name of Abraham Lincoln. This is when it was decreed a national holiday. Decreed, spoke, said, this is to be kept by all people. Thought he was God. You don't have to work on Thanksgiving. Put itself on the same lines as the Most High. Let's go from there. Let's go to Psalms 83, because I told y'all to remember that tabernacle, right? Let's go to Psalms 83. We're going to read verses 1 through 6, and I promise you, we're going to stop when we see a tabernacle. Okay? I'm going to stop reading when I get to the first tabernacle, because again, there's going to be some revealing here. As lies have been told, deceit has been done. I'm going to reveal it. And as my beloved Paul said, be not deceived by any man, even Esau. I'll even say that. Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. These people are the Most High's enemies and the Most High's chosen people's enemies. Let's keep reading. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel. Think they slicker than a can of oil. Think they can fool a fool. Think they can trick a trick. And consulted against thy hidden ones, against his chosen people. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. You're going to see they took some actions like that for thanks fucking giving. They were being themselves. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom. I'm done. I told you I'm stopping right there when I get to the first tabernacle. I told you, remember, that is the house of Edom. Right? Let's go to Job chapter 15. We got it out of Job. We went to Job chapter 12. Let's go to Job chapter 15. Job chapter 15. I want to get verse 34 and 35. Verse 34 and 35. For the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate. Remember this, because this is something that shall happen. And fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery, the tabernacles of bribery, the house of bribery. We read about the tabernacles of robbers. Are we talking about the tabernacles of bribery? Think they smarter and think that they conceive mischief and bring forth vanity, and their belly prepareth deceit. I'm going to talk about this same tabernacle, the tabernacle of Edom. I'm going to reveal some things that the tabernacle of Edom has done to two of the 12 tribes of Israel, those two tribes being Gad and Reuben. Okay. So now let's go to Habakkuk, because we read one woe in regards to a decree. Let's go to Habakkuk. We're going to go to chapter 2 and verse 12. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 12. And it reads, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. Now we finna see some things. Now we finna get into some things. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're gonna see if this applies to the tabernacle of Edom, especially to the tabernacle of Edom on the Western Hemisphere, especially to the tabernacles of Edom in God-forsaken Babylon, who many know as the United States of America. Let's see. Let's see. 1 second. 1 second. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to share my screen. Native Americans and the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Let's get some background on thanks killing, thanks robbing, thanks raping, anything but fucking Thanksgiving. Anything but thanks fucking giving. Any of those things, I promise you, they're applicable. Thanksgiving is not. Again, remember, we looked up giving. It is established that people give willingly. Anything outside of at the will of, it wasn't given. Keep that in mind, please. Because now we're finna look at some iniquities. We're finna look at the truth behind Thanksgiving. You see here it says, the Puritans have landed. By the time of early European colonization attempts, there were over 30,000 Native Americans in Massachusetts alone. And I'll tell you, the number is gonna differ. I've seen from my research between 30,000 and 60,000. Roughly 30,000 or double that. And I'm going to show you the different sources. All the links, that's another thing. I'm sorry. I get ahead of myself. All the links to everything will be in the description, okay? By the time of early European colonization attempts, there were over 30,000 Native Americans, Israelites of the tribe of Reuben or Gad, in Massachusetts, living amongst a variety of tribes belonging to the Algonquin language group. That's a lie. Belonging to the Hebrew-speaking group. Some of the most well-known tribes were the Wampanoag or Wampanoag, the Pequot, the Nipmuc, and the Massachusetts. That's why I had y'all looking at the top right. You can see them plain as day. Massachusetts. That was a tribe of natives. Unfortunately, the Europeans would bring with them diseases that the Native Americans had no immunity against, resulting in large deadly epidemics. I'm going to tell you that is very true. However, that leads to some questions. It took the Northern Kingdom a year and a half to get here. I don't know why I want to say 126. A year and a half to get here, right? They live here all that time without all this pestilence and plague. But along came a spider. I remember that little nursery rhyme. Along came a spider and sat down beside her. But then Esau came. And all of a sudden, a bunch of diseases happened. But let's prove it. So what I want to go and look at now. And we're going to go back to them. Let's look at diseases, and that was during the colonization. Colonial America. Diseases in colonial America that afflicted the early immigrant settlers was a dangerous threat to life. Some of the diseases were new and treatments were ineffective. Malaria was deadly to many new arrivals, especially in the southern colonies. So this is addressing all the colonies. Of newly arrived, able-bodied young men, over 1/4 of the Anglican missionaries, that means Edomites. Anglo is of Esau, died within 5 years of their arrival in the Carolinas. Mortality was high for infants and small children, especially for diphtheria, smallpox, yellow fever, and malaria. Look at all these plagues brought about to the northern kingdom that originally said, let us go to this new land that we will keep all the Most High laws, statutes, and commandments. Look at the death and destruction, just the presence of this particular biblical nationality. Look what it brings. I'm not going to read through all of this. The link will be in the description, but I do want to, I want to go and look at this. Right? This gives some dates. I love dates. This gives an even stronger historical fact. Now, in 1492, that's when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? He brought an interpreter. He had multiple voyages. And I will even go as far as tell you, when he first made port, he made port in Mexico. You want to know the honest truth. When the Spaniards first made port on the western hemisphere of the world, it was in Mexico. Another part of the quote-unquote New World, as no man had ever lived there before. No man had lived on the western hemisphere of the world at all before. So the whole northern kingdom come over here, right? They're living righteously enough that they're not getting plagued with all this shit. Then the heathens come, and guess what? This happens. Let's look at some of the dates. Remember, they made port in regards to Thanksgiving. They made port in Massachusetts. So we're going to look at a bunch of the stuff that happened on that northern part of what you know as the United States. And look at some of this shit. I'm going to read off some of this. This escorted them. Measles, yellow fever. Measles just was all over their ass. Yellow fever, measles again, influenza, smallpox, measles, influenza, measles. Especially hard in New England, an epidemic unfucking known. They had brought something they didn't even name. Influenza, smallpox, another influenza, one of the worst flu epidemics ever, measles, putrid fever, influenza, and a putrid fever. Influenza killed 500 people in 5 counties in 4 weeks. This is what escorted Esau over him. Yellow fever, Dover, Delaware, extremely fatal bilious disorder. This is dated, documented, historical evidence every time they came. The more of them they came, and they came in droves. You don't see it. They committed more and more iniquity everywhere that this man goes. And he's just one of 17 biblical nationalities. But everywhere that this particular walk of life, everywhere Esau goes, death and destruction follows. That too will be proven today. This starts all the way back in 1657, dates as far forward as 1918, right? The link to this will be in the description. Okay? So let's go back to here. So it's very true. Unfortunately, the Europeans, they did, or the Edomites did bring with them diseases that these Israelites had no immunity against, resulting in large deadly epidemics. The native population continued to suffer from disease and warfare. Wait a minute, why is there warfare? What is going on? Because people teach Thanksgiving is all about giving thanks to God, right? Giving thanks to the picture of Caesar Borgia. The native population continued to suffer from disease and warfare throughout the remainder of the 17th century. It started in the 15th century. How are we all the way in the 17th century? Nearly 90% of the native population were killed during that period. Now, understand, they're talking about of those there in Massachusetts, in this specifically, okay? In this specifically. Let's go to this next, because remember, in the Bible it says, a land never before had man dwelt. I said they teach it as they sail to the new world. Basically mean the same thing as what the Bible says. When English immigrants set sail for the New World in the early 17th century, many of them believed that they would be settling what Pilgrim William Bradford called a vast and unopened country. But when they arrived in America, they found a developed region with a large population. And I'm going to change this word here, of Israelites and people of Israelite descent. It was the Northern Kingdom. In this instance, chiefly Reuben and Gad. Now, I want to go from here. I might have the link to this for y'all to. But when these Edomites got here, first they brought all these plagues, right? A lot of the reason why they have these plagues, they didn't keep themselves clean. And all they keep coming to my mind is like that Pocahontas movie, and there's a song where the Edomite characters are responding to the natives as savages. Well, let's see. Remember that word, savages. But first, let's get the definition, because you see the Puritans, right? And you've also been taught or told of the Pilgrims. A lot of people try to say they're different things. I'm going to tell you they're not. They're not. They're Edomites that stem from the Roman Catholic Church. That's what I would tell you. That's what a Pilgrim and a Puritan was. But let's find out. Let's just see. A pilgrim, one who journeys in foreign lands, a wayfarer, one who travels to a shrine or holy place as a devotee of a religion. Now let's look at a Puritan. Because the story goes, the Puritans came, then the Pilgrims came, right? The Puritans came running from the Pilgrims and people like them, but the Pilgrims came, right? That was the story told. Puritans, then Pilgrims. Okay, let's see what Puritans are. A member of the 16th and 17th century Protestant group in England and New England, opposing as unscriptural the ceremonial worship and the prelacy of the Church of England. One who practices or preaches a more rigorous or professedly purer moral code. So, this is someone who traveled. They were protesting, basically, the then the Catholic Church. That's what it says for Puritan. Let's go back and let's look at Pilgrim. One who travels to a shrine or holy place as a devotee, as a member of a goddamn church. They are one in the fucking same. Now, people want to go and, yeah, but there's this one believed in this while this one didn't. I'll tell you this. The reason they're one and the same, first, they're all Edomites. They're all heathens. I'm not going to say just Edomites, but they're all heathens. And their religion, I don't care what it is, it stemmed from the Roman Catholic Church. They're all religious. They're all the same. It stemmed from the one thing. They're the same. All right. The reason why I went into that is because we're going to go here. The Puritans, right? Watch this. We're going to see if that's incorrect. The Puritans were members of a religious reform movement known as Puritanism that arose within the Church of England, meaning it was over there at that point in time, in the late 16th century. They believed the Church of England was too similar to the Roman Catholic Church. Why? Because it stemmed from the Roman Catholic Church. All denominations of religion outside of Islam came from the mother of the harem, from the Roman Catholic Church, and should eliminate ceremonies and practices not rooted in the Bible. Now, what they were saying was, hey, we recognize some of the paganistic shit y'all doing. That ain't in the Bible. That's what they call themselves saying. Nevertheless, they're part of the goddamn church. They are one and the same. Puritans felt they had a direct covenant with God. Now, here go a decree that the Puritans made. They've decreed they have a direct covenant with the Most High. The Most High only, and he only made a covenant with a certain people. These people are Edomites. Those are not the people. Those are not the people that the Most High made a covenant. But this is what they decreed. Under siege from church and crown, certain groups of Puritans migrated to northern English colonies in the New World in the 1620s and 1630s. And we looked at diseases that followed their ass. You got dates there. This shit is all lining up. Laying the foundation for the religious, intellectual, and social order of New England. Aspects of Puritanism have reverberated throughout American life ever since. even down the street from me at a missionary Baptist church, the same shit. Same religious bullshit. Right down the street from me. Let's go and look at some of these iniquities. Let's look at all the links to everything will be in the description. We're going to look at the untold history of native enslavement. Now, Deuteronomy 28 and 68, right? Talks of an enslavement that'll even be mentioned at the very first line of this, right? That is easily relatable to an enslaved, a certain slave trade that this is going to mention, right? I get this a lot from my people, in the truth or not. Natives ain't never been enslaved. Hispanics ain't never been enslaved. You are unlearned. That is not true. That is incorrect, beloved. We're finna read about some enslavement. Just some, because I ain't got much time. I done used a lot of time already. I don't want to keep y'all here for 6 hours. Let's just look at this. Long before the transatlantic African slave trades. Now remember I said, if you do some research, you can read about Sasquatch. And he was a native that was enslaved on the eastern hemisphere of the world. Not only that, we read about the northern tribe, the northern kingdom, which includes the tribe of Reuben and Gad. They were enslaved by Assyria. Then came the Babylonian captivity. So let's just read this, because this is telling so much truth to Israel. Long before the transatlantic African slave trade was established in North America, Europeans were conducting a trade of enslaved indigenous peoples, beginning with Christopher Columbus on Haiti in 1492. Remember I said when Christopher Columbus first landed, he landed in South and Central, towards Central and South America. North America wasn't landed upon till the Puritans, till the Puritans and the Pilgrims. European colonists used these enslavements as a weapons of war, while the indigenous people, and I will tell you these were people of Israelite descent, themselves used enslavement as a tactic for survival, to keep from being killed. Along with devastating disease epidemics, the practice contributed to the fierce decline in indigenous populations after the coming of Europeans. Like I said, everywhere that this particular walk of life touches ground, follows death and desolation. The historical record of trading enslaved indigenous people is found in disparate and scattered sources, including legislative notes, trade transactions, enslaver journals, government correspondence, and especially church records. Now, I want to say to you again, the Pilgrims and the Puritans are one and the same. They all stem from the Roman Catholic Church. They are religious people, And this is not coincidental. There's no irony here. These are just, let me keep going. Making it difficult to account for the entire history. They're basically saying because it's so sporadic in where you can find said documents, right? The North American trade of enslaved people began with the Spanish incursions into the Caribbean and Christopher Columbus's practice of enslavement. He was just being an Edomite. As documented in his own journal, every European nation that colonized North America forced enslaved indigenous peoples to perform tasks such as construction, plantations, and mining on the North American continent and their outposts in the Caribbean and European cities. The European colonizers of South America who enslaved indigenous people as part of their colonization strategy. Nowhere is there more documentation of enslavement of indigenous peoples than in South Carolina, the location of the original English colony of Carolina, established in 1670. It is estimated that between 1650 and 1730, at least 50,000 indigenous peoples, and likely more due to transactions hidden to avoid paying government tariffs and taxes, were exported by the English alone to their Caribbean outposts. Esau even don't mind trying to outsmart Esau. Do you see this? I cannot make this shit up. This further depreciates the value of anyone who has a rebuttal that natives, and you can go through what so-called Negroes went through, did they? Because that right there is just talking about just enslavement. The link for this will be in the description. Let's keep going. I got some more things I gotta go over. So let's look at. So we looked at in Massachusetts. Let's look at the other New England colonies and the Native Americans. Let's see how willing they were, since Thanksgiving is based off of the one day that they decreed to start, or so they're saying, and I'm saying that because proof is going to be submitted that says no. They celebrated and said happy Thanksgiving every time they killed and conquered a new tribe. And there's proof. Not just annually. If they might conquer a new tribe, they might conquer 3 tribes in a day. Guess what they did shortly after doing it? Had a happy Thanksgiving. That's what they would say. But we gonna prove all things. Got to prove all things for 1 Thessalonians 5:21. The New England colonies and the Native Americans. While Native Americans and English settlers in the New England territories first attempted a mutual relationship, here comes the lie, based on trade and a shared dedication to spirituality. These are a bunch of lies. Soon, disease and other conflicts led to a deteriorated relationship and eventually the first Indian War. So now we finna start seeing about some murders. Something that so-called Negroes went through. A bunch of murders. Still get killed in the streets right now today. But let's see if our beloved brethren definitely fit the scripture of what happens to all of Israel, not just the so-called Negroes. Israel is made of 12 tribes. All 12 of those tribes are not Just the tribe of Judah. You don't see the tribe of Judah, tribe of Judah, tribe of Judah, tribe of Benjamin, tribe of Judah, tribe of Levi, no. Judah is the tribe that's the so-called Negroes here on the Western Hemisphere of the earth. I'm going to keep stressing that. I really want that to resonate with you. Let's read a little bit about this. One of America's earliest and most enduring legends. This is what the world says. Legends is the story of Thanksgiving. That pilgrims who had migrated to the New Plymouth colony from England sat down with the local Wampanoag Indians to celebrate the first successful harvest in 1621. They are calling it a legend, a story. It makes for a great story. It's their words. Cultures coming together and sharing the bounty of the land that would eventually become America. However, the reality of interactions between colonists and the local native people, American peoples, is a far more complex story of trade, cooperation, intense conflict as the two societies merged into America. See, this I have a problem with because they merged into America a long, long time ago, per the Bible. The tribes, the Northern Kingdom, merged here a long time before 16 anything, or 15 anything, or 14 anything. So no, it wasn't the two of them merging. It was one of them merging in and invading on another. That's what it was. In the 1600s, when the first English settlers began to arrive in New England, there are about 60,000 Native Americans living in what would later become the New England colonies: Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New Haven, and Rhode Island. Remember when I told y'all you don't see about between 30 and 60,000 that were there in Massachusetts, because that's where they say that's where Plymouth Rock is, around up in that area. In the first English colonies in the Northeast, as well as in Virginia, there were initial conflicts and concerns over the threat that colonists posed to the Native Americans' long established territory. That means they were there a long time prior to these Europeans, prior to these Edomites. Still, colonists were able to build thriving colonies with listen to what this says, with the help of locals. Now, we just read about, they enslaved them and made them construct and made them build. Trade was one of the first bridges between New England colonists and local Native American populations. For the colonists, it was about building the infrastructure and relationships they would need to stay and thrive in the new world. For the Native Americans, it was often about building potential alliances. After only 5 years, the Plymouth colony was no longer financially dependent on England due to the roots and local economy it had built alongside the native Massachusetts people. I'm going to say on the back of the native Massachusetts people. That's the truth. That's the truth. I'm going to leave the link. I'm not going to go into too much, but I do want to go a little further down. Both sides benefit from the trade and bartering system established by native peoples and the colonists. The Native Americans provided, look at what they provided, because this is key. You're gonna understand this a little later. They provided skins, hides, food, knowledge, and other crucial materials and supplies, while the settlers traded breads and other types of currency, also known as wampum, in exchange for these goods. So who's getting the shitty end of the stick already? Let's look at it again. Skins, hides, food, knowledge, and other crucial materials and supplies for breads. It ain't like they didn't eat the food. Hell, they were providing food. And a currency known as wampum. Right? But keep this in mind, because you see this skins, hides, foods, and knowledge. Keep all of this in mind. Keep all of this in mind, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why this was mentioned right here, right now. I'm going to show you. Let's go here. Let's go here. Just look at this. Because right now, you're already seeing bribery. What today would be known as bribery. Highway robbery. They call it all kind of shit. For someone to offer so much for oh so little. Right? And that still wasn't what it was. But let's just assume, for the sake of argument, just for the sake of shits and giggles, I'm going to say, because it's not for the sake of argument, for the sake of shits and giggles, let's say that was the case, right? If that's how it started, then why did it end that way? Why did it end with enslavement? Why did it end with so much murder? And we're going to keep looking at some of these iniquities. We're going to keep seeing the why for Thanksgiving. Watch this. The Puritans and the Indians. The leading New England Indian tribes were the Mohegan and Pequot. Keep that name, keep that tribe's name in mind. In Connecticut. The Narragansett in Rhode Island, the Patuxet and Wampanoag in Plymouth, and the Nipmucin, Massachusetts, and Pennacock in Massachusetts Bay. A lot of these I've kind of touched on a lot of these in a previous. This is just substantiating, just doing a little substantiating. No political unity existed among the tribes, though they were able to communicate through spoken word. Well, what were they speaking? What they were speaking was the same reason that Christopher Columbus needed an interpreter. And again, like I said, if y'all do your own research, I want y'all to just Google Sasquatch. See what you find out. I want you to study. The Most High said not to do heathen, not to cleave to these heathen ways. Study this heathen ways so you will understand the reason you ain't supposed to cleave to. Let me keep reading. The Indians were hunters, but also horticulturists who believed that the land should be shared and contain no boundaries. These were a peaceful, meek people. These are, excuse my words, I said were in reference to back then. Let me correct myself. These are some peaceful, meek, humble beings. The Most High's chosen are to be that. Well, these are some of those, because like we read in Esdras, they had decreed that when they get to this new world, They were going to uphold the laws, statutes, and commandments because they never did them in their previous home. Let me keep reading. And we read that today. Indian villagers shared the proceeds from the land. No one went hungry. Keep that in mind. Just like I said, keep them skins, hides, keep all that. No one of the natives ever went hungry. Ever. Keep watching. No one went hungry unless everyone did. Sachems led the tribes and were assisted by a council of lesser sachems and important warriors. Puritan ideas, here comes some ideology, about the land were quite different. Now here come why it was such a, why the shit was a conflict real quick. Their approach was best expressed by John Winthrop, who said, as for the natives in New England, they enclose no land, neither have any settled habitation, nor any tame cattle to improve the land, and so have no other but a natural right to those countries, so as if we leave them sufficient for their use, we may lawfully take the rest. Does that sound like willingly being giving something? Or as the records of Milford, Connecticut town records state, the earth is the Lord's. The earth is given to the saints, and we are the saints. Somebody declaring they something that they ain't. Ah. Many of the settlers agreed with William Bradford, who maintained that the Indians were savage people. Here comes a byword from my beloved brethren of Reuben and Gad. Savages. They put it in a movie for you, an animated movie. They showed it to your kids. Who are cruel and barbarous and most treacherous. Now, that is this Edomite's words of the tribes of Gad and the tribes of and Reuben, right? Let's see who are savages. Let's see who is cruel, who is barbarous, and most treacherous. Because that's that Edomite's words, right? It's in quotation marks. Again, the link to all this will be in the description, okay? And we're going to see who were all of those things. Let's go here first. I want to go here first. When these colonists, settlers, right, when they first got here, this type of stuff that was happening in them, right? Now, we just read that in the natives, no one went hungry unless everyone went hungry, right? Straight from the Smithsonian Magazine, right? Let's see. Links will be in the description. Starving settlers in Jamestown Colony resorted to cannibalism. This doesn't say starving natives. I told you, everywhere that this particular group of people go leads to death and desolation. New archaeological evidence and forensic, now their own science, reveals that a 14-year-old girl was cannibalized in desperation. Y'all gonna have to excuse me. We finna read about some white folk shit. Just point blank. Cannibalism, this is not the first that they've practiced that. It's written in the Bible that they did that. This was not a new practice of theirs. They done it before. They ate a lot of other Israelites. Let's get this. Let's get this. Because, see, obviously, when they first got here, you got to understand, these, to further prove that these were Israelites, right? Back when Moses led them, they went right to what? The wilderness. My people learned how to survive in the wilderness. When them Europeans first got here, guess what that was for them? The wilderness. These Edomites didn't know how to live in the wilderness. That's why I said make sure to look at what all they received as opposed to what all the natives received. They received skins and things to make clothing because they couldn't deal with the cold. They received food. But above all of them, the one thing that was the most precious that they got from my beloved brethren was knowledge. An understanding of some things. The harsh winter of 1609 in Virginia's Jamestown colony, here we go, the wintertime, forced residents to do the unthinkable. No, it's not unthinkable. Again, it's recorded in the Bible. They've done it before. A recent excavation at the historic site discovered the carcasses of dogs, cats, and horses consumed during the season commonly called the starving time. But a few other newly discovered bones in particular, though, tell a far more gruesome story. Oh, Esau, Esau, Esau. You be trying to keep, you don't want your shit to stink. You don't let nobody know about how you be. Woo. How treacherous, how savage, how barbarous a people you are. Everything that one of you said about one of my beloved brethren. The dismemberment and cannibalization of a 14-year-old English Edomite girl. The chops to the forehead are very tentative, very incomplete, says Douglas Owsley, the Smithsonian forensic anthropologist who analyzed the bones after they were found by archaeologists from Preservation, Virginia. Then the body was turned over, and there were 4 strikes to the back of the head, one of which was the strongest and split the skull in half. A penetrating wound was then made to the left temple, probably by a single-sided knife, which was used to pry open the head and remove the brain. Much is still unknown about the circumstances of this grisly meal. Who exactly the girl researchers are calling Jane was, whether she was murdered or died of natural causes, whether multiple people participated in the butchering or it was a solo act. But as Owsley revealed, along with lead archaeologist William Kelso today at a press conference at the National Museum of Natural History, we now have the first direct evidence of cannibalism at Jamestown. These savages, these barbarous, treacherous people, they willing to eat other people, even their own. Even their own. Let me look at some other, because now I'm really starting to get into some of the iniquities that that were committed. Remember, I said I want to visit some of these iniquities so that you'll truly know what celebrating Thanksgiving is about. The shocking savagery. Now, who's the savage of America's early history? Again, straight from the Smithsonian. Straight from the Smithsonian. Let me get this. Watch this. It's all a bit of a blur, isn't it? That little remembered century from 16 to 1700 that began with the founding and foundering of the first permanent English settlement in America, the one called Jamestown, whose epidemic pearls portended failure for the dream of a new world. I'm going to say again, way back in Esdras, you read about 9 tribes of the 12 tribes of Israel who traveled to this new world. It wasn't new when they got there. Only prior to the Northern Kingdom coming to the Western Hemisphere had no man ever dwelt here before. Once they got here and dwelt here for a long time, and they knew exactly who, if anybody, who would be over here, because again, they escaped from captivity to go here. Let me keep going. The century that saw all the disease-ridden, barely civilized Esau, barely civilized, savages, barbarous, treacherous people, civilized successors to Jamestown, slaughtering and getting slaughtered by the original inhabitants, hanging on by their fingernail to some fetid coastal swampland until Pocahontas saved Thanksgiving. No, that's not right. Is it? I said it was a blur. Enter Bernard Bailyn, the greatest historian of early America alive today. Now over 90 at the time that this came out, and ensconced at Harvard for more than 6 decades, Bailyn has recently published another one of his epoch-making grand narrative synthesis, The Barbarous Years, casting a light on the dark, filling in the blank canvas with what he's gleaned from what seems like every last scrap of crumbling diary page, every surviving chattel slave receipt, and ship's passenger manifest of the living and the dead. Yeah, these were natives. This was before the transatlantic slave trade. Every fearful sermon about the Antichrist that survived in the blackened embers of the burned out churches. I'm telling you, that's all that Puritans and Pilgrims were. That's all that they were. Religious people. It's people, hey, it's people in my family right now that believe, subjective ass belief, some of the same shit them damn Edomites believe way back then, because that's the same shit that's been regurgitated to even some of my people alive right now. And I'm talking about my family, my direct family. Bailyn has not painted a pretty picture. Little wonder he calls it the barbarous years and spares us no details of the terror, desperation, and degradation and widespread torture. Do you really know what being flayed alive means? He even goes and talks about the cannibalism of these Edomites to the tribes of Gad and Reuben. The skin is torn from the face and head, and the prisoner is disemboweled while still alive. And yet somehow amid the merciless massacres were elements that gave birth to the rudiments of civilization. Or in Balin's evocative phrase, the fragile integument of civility that would evolve 100 years later into virtual Renaissance culture, a bustling string of self-governing, self-sufficient, defiantly expansionist colony, alive with an increasingly sophisticated and literate political and intellectual culture that would coalesce into the rationale for the birth of American independence. All the while shaping and sometimes misshaping the American character. It's a grand drama in which the glimmers of enlightenment barely survive the savagery. What Yeats call the blood-damned tide, the brutal establishment of slavery, the race wars with the original inhabitants that Balin is not afraid to call genocidal. Whoa, because he's an Edomite. Balin is an Edomite, and he's saying that his brethren committed genocide. So we get into another one of these iniquities. We already saw slavery. Now we finna see genocide. The full horrifying details of which have virtually been erased. Crafty counsel, boy, let us erase. I read Psalms 83. They try this all the time. They try to erase the shit they did. They don't want you to know how bad they shit stink. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do what the Bible say. I'm going to do what my beloved four brethren, Paul, he did the same thing. He said, about revealing something. In truth, I didn't think anyone sat around erasing it. Balin tells me when I visited him in his spacious document stuff study in Harvard's Widener Library. Again, Balin is an Edomite. He's a wiry, remarkably fit-looking fellow, energetically jumping out of his chair to open up a file drawer and show me copies of one of his most prized documentary finds, the handwritten British government survey records of American-bound colonists made in the 1770s, which list the name, origin, occupation, and age of the departing, one of the few islands of hard data about who the early Americans were. Nobody sat around erasing this history, he says in an even tone, but it is forgotten. Conveniently, I ask. I'm going to stop reading that there. You can go to this and read the rest of this interview about the savagery of Esau, of his people, of Balin's people. Link will be in the description. Let's go to the next thing. Because I'm finna reveal something to y'all probably never knew about. The gruesome story of Hannah Dustin, whose slaying of Indians made her an American folk hero. So here we have not only a Edomite, but a female Edomite who has been deemed a American folk hero because of her gruesome, savage, barbarous, treacherous. A century after killing and scalping 10 Native Americans, she was memorialized in what might well be the first public statue of a female in America. Israel, I can't make this shit up. Again, this is straight from the Smithsonian. This is not for me. I didn't write this shit, copy and paste Smithsonian magazine. No. It is right here for you to see right here today. Let's read a little bit about this. Let's read a little something about her. Let's read a little something about her. On a small island north of Concord, New Hampshire, stands a 25-foot tall granite statue of Hannah Dustin, an English colonist taken captive by Native Americans in 1697, because there was a lot of wars going on, right? During King William's War. Erected in 1874, the statue bears close resemblance to contemporary depictions of Columbia, the popular goddess of liberty and female allegorical symbol of the nation. Yes, talking about the Statue of Liberty. Except for what she holds in her hand. In one, a tomahawk, in the other, a fistful of human scalps. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but an Edomite referred to the natives as savage, barbarous, treacherous people. Howbeit then, let me just keep. Though she's all but forgotten today, Hannah Dustin was probably the first American woman to be memorialized in a public monument. And this statue is one of 3 built in her honor. She got 3 built in her honor. Between 1861 and 1879, the mystery of why Americans came to see patriotic heroism in Dustin's extreme, even gruesome violence, and why she became popular more than 100 years after her death, helps explain how the United States sees itself in world conflicts today. There's some revealing going on. As you can read about this same type of stuff. Look, John was revealed some things about this place in Revelation 18. And that same ideology and mindset that this is speaking of. Is it irony or coincidental that John pretty much painted the same type of picture with things like, I am a queen that sitteth on a throne and none can overthrow me? Is there irony or coincidence in this? Let me keep reading. Let me just keep. Let me keep reading. Born in 1657, Hannah Emerson Dustin lived in Haverhill, Massachusetts, at a time when disputes among English colonists, the French in Canada, and various Native American nations resulted in a series of wars in the region. King Philip's War from 1675 through 1676, for example, decimated southern New England Indian nations, native nation, which lost between 60 and 80% of their population, as well as their political independence. Many were sold into slavery. Tell me again, if you're watching this and you ever had the misunderstanding that natives didn't go through the same, and still don't go through the same thing as so-called Negroes, and if you still have the misunderstanding after I do the complete breakdown of Israel and the 12 about even the so-called Hispanic, and yes, that means you'll hear people say Mexicans and Latinas. Those are Hispanic people. After I do that, then a couple of things I'd be thinking myself about you. One, either you can't accept the truth, or two, you might need to be getting you a check. Yeah, you might need to get you a check because you are crazy as a goddamn road lizard at that point in time. For me, that's for me personally. But here you see it is being said again into slavery. By the late 1680s and the start of King William's War, fragments of those southern tribes had joined the Abenaki and other northern New England Indian nations. So now, Reuben and Gad, they having to come together. Uh-oh. They killing us, dog. They killing us. Now, we said we was going to come over here to do the law, statutes, and commandments. And these heathens followed us. They followed us. Brought all this goddamn pestilence and plague with them. And some of this, the same shit we fled from thousands of years ago. It took us a year and a half. It took our people a year and a half to get here. Thousands of years prior, we were in captivity. These motherfuckers are doing the same. They are killing and enslaving us. So we got to get together, dog. We got to do this, bro. And that's what they started doing. Allied with the French to fight the continuing expansion of the English colonists because they were invading. To the north and west, native men conducted raids on frontier English settlements, burning property, killing or injuring some colonists, and taking other captives, either to ransom them back to their families or to adopt them as replacements for their own lost family members. Let's read more about her, though, and her role. Such was the context in which one group, most of whom were likely Abenaki, attacked the town of Haverhill on March 15, 1697, and encountered 40-year-old Hannah Dustin at home with her neighbor, Mary Neff, two Edomites. The Indians captured the women along with some of their neighbors and started on foot toward Canada. Dustin had given birth about a week before. The captors are said to have killed her child early in the journey. The group traveled for about 2 weeks, and then Dustin and Neff, with a Native American family, 2 men, 3 women, and 7 children, and another English captive, a boy who had been abducted a year and a half earlier from Worcester, Massachusetts. 14-year-old Samuel Leonardson may have been adopted by the family. He certainly had their trust. At Dustin, At Dustin's request, he asked one of the men the proper way to kill someone with a tomahawk and was promptly shown how. Here goes some of that knowledge. Shouldn't have showed Esau, who was blessed with basically savagery, based with war. The group traveled for about 2 weeks and left Dustin and Neff with a Native American family, 2 men, 3 women. Oh, I'm sorry. On one night, when the Indian family was asleep, Dustin, Neff, and Leonardson, who were not guarded or locked up, armed themselves with tomahawks and killed and scalped 10 of the Indians, including 6 children. They wounded an older woman who escaped. A small boy managed to run away. Dustin and her fellow captives then left in a canoe, taking themselves and the scalps down the Merrimack River to Massachusetts, where they presented them to General Assembly of Massachusetts and received a reward of 50 pounds, 5 pounds per head. That's what they were rewarded. Let me go along from there. Because now we're just looking at certain iniquities. Because you saw about many wars, right? You saw about where even at Edomite himself during an interview said it was genocide, right? Let's look at this. List of Indian massacres just in North America alone. I ain't even touched South and Central America. I ain't even touched it yet. I'm not going to touch it. It'll be much longer than it is now. Indian massacre is a phrase whose use and definition has evolved and expanded over time. The phrase was initially used by European colonists to describe attacks by indigenous Americans, which resulted in mass colonial casualties. So they paint the picture as if they the victim. While similar attacks by colonists on Indian villages were called raids or battles. They shit don't stink. They got to make their shit smell better. Let's look at some of these. And I've shown this before, actually, Israel, in a Truth for Thought in the past. And I was saying that even that, in fact, it was about the ghettos, the barrios, and the reservations. This came up. I presented this once before, but I want to look at something. Because I said to you, Israel, and this is further proving what I said. Initially, the Europeans didn't touch down here in what you know as America. Look here, 1518 through 1519, the annihilation of the Atomy of Teokok. Look where this took place. Teokok, modern day Mexico. The entire Otomi population of Teokok was reportedly killed during Hernan Cortez's first expedition into Mexico. Look at the reported casualties in the far right. All of them. Every last one of them. Now, I'm not going to tell you that so-called Negroes didn't get murdered like this and still don't get killed. But you, unfortunately, have to explain to me how I can tell you that natives are of Israel and that they endured the same thing. And now I'm presenting evidence to you. And for you, if you still have the misunderstanding that they are not of Israel, it brings only 2 things to mind. I say again, either, and this is to people both in the truth and not in the truth, but especially to people in the truth. This is to both People of Israelite descent, whether you're in the truth or not, but more so for the ones that say they in the truth. If the Bible said that these things happen to God's chosen people, then surely there will be proof of it happening to any of the types of any of the tribes of the 12 of the nation of Israel, which is God's chosen people. This happened. Now explain to me how these are not our people. And this is just the top of the list. We ain't even really getting started yet. I'm going to keep going down. Like I said, the Europeans didn't originally touch down here in what you know as North America. It was Central and South America first. And you're going to see by the dates and locations. The very first one that you see here in this list that's in North America is the Napatuka Massacre in Florida in 1539. After beating resisting Temucan warriors, Hernando de Solo had 200 executed in the first large-scale massacre by Europeans on what later became U.S. soil. Whoa. This was part of that Thanksgiving. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to leave a link to this because I'm not finna go through all of these. Jamestown, Virginia. I got to get this one, though. 1609, the Orpax Massacre. During the starving time, because we touched this, at Jamestown in the colony of Virginia, John Radcliffe, president of the colony, and around 50 colonists went to meet a group of Powhatan Indians to bargain for food. However, they were ambushed and only 16 survived. Radcliffe was captured and later tortured to death. Who died? 33 colonies. But that happened for a reason. The question is, what happened to cause this to happen? Now we finna find out. Remember, I showed you all a picture. No, that was in 1609. But when that happened, that's because they were already enslaving us. They were already enslaving Reuben and Gad, right? So that's why they killed them. But let's look a little further down the line. Remember, we saw this name before, the Pequot tribe. Way up in Massachusetts. The real story of the U.S. Thanksgiving. Oh, boy. We getting there, Israel. We almost done, I promise you. Most of us associate the holiday with happy pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a big feast. And that did happen once. And it wouldn't like you just heard it. I have proof. It wouldn't even like that was just phrased. I have proof. The story began in 1614 when a band of English explorers sailed home to England with a ship full of Patuxet Indians bound for slavery. So in 1609, some Indians went and killed some colonists. It was because of something. They were taking the tribe of Reuben and Gad into slavery. And they was retaliating, and they was trying to get them out of their land that they had came and made a decree thousands of years ago to come to this new place where no man had ever lived, just to do the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. And lo and behold, these heathen came after them. And they went back into defense mode. They didn't want to go back into captivity again like they were in the Assyrian captivity. They left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. By the time the Pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Patuxet Indian, a man named Squatto. Uh-oh. I told you. I told you. Do some research about Squatto. We're going to read a little bit about him, but do some research about Squatto, who had survived slavery in England. And he knew their language. Dog. I'm almost finna make it where you ain't even got to study. I almost finna do the study for you. He taught the colonists to grow corn and to fish and to negotiate a peace treaty between Pilgrims and Wampanoag Nation. At the end of their first year, the Pilgrims held a great feast honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags. That was what they say is the first Thanksgiving. If you are studying, keep studying, because that is not the truth in its entirety. And part of the truth is just as good as the lie. Either it's the entire truth or it's not. But as word spread in England about the paradise to be found in the New World, religious zealots, I say again, Pilgrims and Puritans are one and the same, called Puritans, began arriving by the boatload, by the slew. I even called that. I said that earlier in the Truth for Thought. Finding no fences around the land, they considered it to be in the public domain. Oh, this is just as good as mine. Because there's no fence around. Joined by other British settlers, they seized land, capturing strong and young natives for slaves and killing, slaughtering, massacring the rest. But the Pequot Nation had not agreed to the peace treaty that Squatto had negotiated, and they fought back. The Pequot War was one of the bloodiest Indian wars ever fought, just one. Again, I'm providing links to all of this. There is a full list of 3 to 4 pages of massacres just like this one throughout the U.S. history, inflicted onto the tribes of Gad and Reuben. Let me keep going. I got to go on and get this out the way because I done had y'all here long enough. Remember when even the Edomite in his interview said that it was nothing short of genocide. Genocide in American Indian history. Let me read a little bit of this. Just for you, because I still got to go back to the Bible for some things. The issue of genocide in American Indian history has been contentious. How? Many writers see the massive depopulation of the indigenous population of the Americas after 1492. That's why I get dates for stuff. So you can line shit up. It started lining up as a clear-cut case of genocide. Other writers, however, contend that European and U.S. actions toward Indians were deplorable, but were rarely, if ever, genocidal. That's Esau trying to make their shit not stink so bad. To a significant extent, disagreements about the pervasiveness of genocide in the history of the post-Columbian Western Hemisphere in general and U.S. history in particular pivot on definitions of genocide. Conservative definitions emphasize intentional actions and policies of government that result in a very large population losses. That's what happened. Usually from direct killing. That happened. That's just for the conservative. More liberal definitions call for less stringent criteria for extent, focusing more on outcomes. They do not necessarily require direct sanction by state authorities. Rather, they identify societal forces and actors. They also allow for several intersecting forces of destruction, including disposition and disease. So even the ones that are more liberal, they take out of consideration other things. But even with that, it doesn't matter which way you look at it. If that is the definition of genocide, regardless of which definition you want to use, both of those happen. It's genocide. Because debates about genocide easily devolve into quarrels about definitions, an open-ended approach to the question of genocide that explores several phases and events provides the possibility of moving beyond the present stalemate. It's not a stalemate. They just don't want to call their own shit. They don't want to be held responsible. They don't even want to hold themselves responsible. An open-ended approach to the question of genocide that explores several phases and events provides the possibility of moving beyond the present stalemate. However, one resolves the question of genocide in American Indian history. It is important to recognize that European and U.S. settlers' colonial projects unleashed massively destructive forces on native peoples and communities. These include violence resulting directly from settler expansion, intertribal violence frequently aggravated by the colonial intrusions, enslavement, disease, alcohol, loss of land and resources, forced removals, and assaults on tribal religion, culture, and language. The configuration and impact of these forces varied considerably in different times and places according to the goals of the particular colonial projects and the capabilities of the colonial societies and institutions to pursue them. Basically, it depended on if they had enough resources to pull it off, and if there was even a goal to be pulled off for that particular group of colonists, intruders, invaders, savages, barbarous people, treacherous people. The capacity of Native people and communities to directly resist, blunt, or evade colonial invasion proved equally important. Why would they be fighting back? Yes, that is rather important. It is rather important. Link in the description. Now let's look at this. I just for shits and giggles, I wanted to do this. I wanted to see if I can find two things. What the world says that Thanksgiving is, and if I can find the truth of what the world says Thanksgiving is a celebration of. Let me say this correctly. What the world says that Thanksgiving is the celebration of, and the truth of what Thanksgiving is a celebration of. Thanksgiving, this is straight from Britannica. As you can see, Thanksgiving Day, it's a holiday decreed by Abraham Lincoln. Well after when the first one happened. Duly note that as well. Duly note that. Thanksgiving Day, annual national holiday in the United States and Canada, to celebrate the harvest and other blessings of the past year. That's what you were told. It's what the world says. Americans generally believe that their Thanksgiving is modeled on a 1621 harvest feast shared by the English colonist Pilgrims of Plymouth and the Wampanoag people. The American holiday is particularly rich in legend and symbolism, and the traditional fare of the Thanksgiving meal typically includes turkey, bread, stuffing, potatoes, cranberries, and pumpkin pie. I'm gonna do a truth thought, because all that stuff was there for a reason. It was very symbolic. I'm not gonna include it in this one. This one is going on long. I know. I'm sorry, Israel, but I had to get this from the Rudy to the Tootie. Just bear with me. With respect to vehicular travel, the holiday is often the busiest of the year as family members gather with one another. Plymouth Thanksgiving began with a few colonists going out fowling, possibly for turkey, but more probably for easier prey of geese and ducks, since they in one day killed as much as served the company almost a week. Next, 90 or so Wampanoag made a surprise appearance at the settlement gate. Remember this, because there's some truth to this. There is some truth to this. I will tell you that, but it ain't the whole truth. Made a surprise appearance at the settlement's gate, doubtlessly unnerving the 50 or so colonists. Nevertheless, look at how this sounds, because you're going to learn differently, I promise you. Nevertheless, over the next few days, the two groups socialized without incident. Remember that. Remember that date. That date said 1621, right? Well, in 1637, that was the battle of, that was what we just read about. Let me go back to it. 1637. Right? In 1637, that's when this massacre happened. Right? But per the world, let's go back to this. Per the world, it says, nevertheless, over the next few days, the two groups socialized without incident. They paint a picture as if everything's cool. But in 1609, as we saw on this, in 1609, and let's just put this shit together, Israel. In 1609, the Orpax massacre was when some natives went and killed some settlers. But they did it for a reason. Why? They were enslaving and killing them even back then. Again, this dates back to 1492, just for the Americas. And when I say the Americas, I'm saying North, South, and Central America. So that is what the world said, right? Watch this. And all the links going to be in the description. Every now and again, I try to keep saying that. Straight from Forbes. The real history behind Thanksgiving. The reason for Thanksgiving. I'm not going to read much of this. Today, as millions of American families, come on, advertisements. Today, as millions of American families gather together in celebration of Thanksgiving, many remain unaware of the real history behind the holiday. While in school, most children are taught that Thanksgiving represents a feast celebrating Christopher Columbus's discovery of America. When Christopher Columbus first came, he came to Central America. He landed in Mexico, not here. Keep all this in mind. More specifically, after an unidentifiable tribe of native people welcomed the pilgrims. This is what people are taught, even in school as children. That's what this is saying. To America, which was their land. They taught them how to live and care for their land, voluntarily gave up their land, and then all happily gathered for a celebration dinner. After which they disappeared into thin fucking air, as if they never existed. Most schools' history books teach that the native people handed off America to white people, to Esau, to Edom, so they could create a great nation dedicated to liberty, opportunity, and watch this last one, and Christianity, for the rest of the world to profit. I'm just thinking about Revelation 18 again, something that John said. Many have drank of her wine, have gotten drunk and drank of her wine. And here we go. Most school history books teach that native people handed off America to white people so they could create a great nation dedicated to liberty, opportunity, and Christianity for the rest of the world to profit, for many to get drunk off her wine. The story typically told is about native people conceding to colonialism. Come on. Most American children are not taught about the savage raping, killing, and pillaging that natives endured during this time. I say to you again, these are my brethren, my beloved brethren and sisters. These are the tribes of Reuben and Gad. They went through the same damn things that my tribe, as I am of the tribe of Judah, went through. Another criticism of many primary, secondary schools' curriculum is that very little is taught in school about the history and culture of the Native community in general. In fact, around 87% of state-level history standards do not mention Native history after 1900. Let alone teaching students the tremendous impact Native people have had on contemporary U.S. society due to the severe erasure of Native history. Didn't we read in Psalms 83, come let us erase Israel from existence. Let's keep reading. This is two whole tribes of Israel. Thanksgiving has been whitewashed, and many have been taught an incomplete and in some cases, inaccurate understanding of what happened. The truth is that for the Winnebago tribe, among other native tribes, the fourth Thursday in November is considered a day of mourning, not a day of celebration. Although the Winnebagoes did help the Pilgrims survive, their support was followed by years of slow unfolding genocide of their people and stealing their land. I'm going to leave the link to this. Let me stop sharing my screen because, see, this happened to my beloved brother. This happened to my beloved. And because this happened to my beloved brother, oppression make a wise man. You can read this in the Bible. It angers me. The oppression that my brethren went through. It's just like the oppression that my tribe and the oppression that any of my people went through. It angers me after a certain point. That's just the truth. For me. That's just for me. So this is what I want to do, Israel. I'm going to go back to the Bible. But before I go to the Bible, I got 2 videos I want you to look at. One is about 5 minutes and 45 minutes long. The other is about a minute or so long. One is an Edomite describing Thanksgiving Day. The other, and to my beloved, who I just spoke to not too long ago, in regards to the Northern Kingdom. The other video is going to be, and I want all of Israel to hear me when I say this word. This is a very key word. The other video is going to be descendants of the tribes of Gad and Reuben. And they're going to let you know their understanding of what Thanksgiving is a celebration of. So until that, when that is over, I'll come back. We're going to finish up by going to the Bible and ending this truth for thought. I know it's been long. I apologize to you, Israel, but I had to take it all the way from when the Northern Kingdom left captivity so that you'll know where they left and went to. So that you will understand that these are brethren. Then I can go into what happened to our brethren. So with that, let's watch this video and I'll be right back.
Facts Verse presents the disturbing truth about Thanksgiving that you never learned in history class. Most people love Thanksgiving. It's a time for families to get together and celebrate the holiday together. Most people will cook a turkey, sweet potatoes, green beans, plenty of delicious pies, especially that pumpkin pie. Good stuff. Well, the reason that we're told that we celebrate Thanksgiving is that we are commemorating the meal between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. Well, over the years, the holiday has gone from a celebration of this union to a celebration of watching football with the family and having fun. Every kid in school learns about the first Thanksgiving in class. We've been taught that in 1621, the first Thanksgiving took place. The Pilgrim Fathers gathered together to celebrate the first harvest in the newly settled land of Plymouth Country, which is now known as Massachusetts. The settlers decided to invite the Native Americans to the celebration to thank them for their help. They also wanted to make the Native Americans feel welcome. On the first Thanksgiving, they sat down for turkey, sweet potatoes, and pie. It sounds like a delightful story, right? But unfortunately, it's not all true. There are some disturbing truths about Thanksgiving that you probably did not learn in class. Squanto is a famous Tisquantum, and he had a lot to do with that first Thanksgiving. In school, we were taught that this Native American spoke English, which helped him to communicate with the English newcomers and translate to his fellow Native Americans. While that part of the story is true, it's not the whole story. Squanto did not spend his entire life in Plymouth Colony with his friends and family members. He also did not translate during the first Thanksgiving feast out of kindness of his heart. The reason Squanto was the only Native American who spoke English was that he had been enslaved and forced into servitude in England. When the English headed to his native land in 1619, they brought him along. They figured that he could help them speak to the people in his native tongue. Now, if you thought that Squanto was just a highly intelligent Native American man who helped open the lines of communication between the Milgrams and the other Native Americans, you were taught wrong. The story of the first Thanksgiving says that it was all peace and happiness during the first Thanksgiving feast. That's also not accurate. The Pilgrims didn't send out a happy invitation to the Native Americans asking them to join them for a meal. Massasoit, the Native American chief of the Wampanoag people, he was invited to the first Thanksgiving. He arrived at the feast with 90 of his men. Because the Native Americans were armed warriors, the Pilgrims decided that they had to do something as a show of force. So they fired their guns in the air to let the Native Americans know that they could fight if necessary. Not exactly the happy start to a dinner that we were taught in elementary school. Putting up a sign of force before dinner doesn't make for the most relaxing of meals. Now, our Thanksgiving menu today is said to be based on what the Pilgrims had and the Native Americans ate on that first Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, that part of the story is not true either. While there were wild turkeys in the area, they were not served during that meal. The Wampanoag people showed up with 5 deer to be cooked. So that means that we shouldn't be eating roasted turkey on Thanksgiving, not if we want it to be a legitimate, authentic Thanksgiving meal. We should be eating venison. Also, sweet potatoes were not grown in the region at that time, so they couldn't have been served during the first meal either. And the settlers did not have flour or butter when they arrived in Plymouth Colony, so no dinner rolls. Without sugar or butter, we also couldn't have had those baked pies that were said to have been served at the first Thanksgiving dinner. No pumpkin pie? I mean, that's just not Thanksgiving anymore, is it? In school, we learned that the first Thanksgiving took place in 1621 so that the Pilgrims could thank the Native Americans for their hospitality and kindness. And it is a beautiful story, but it's not a true story. Many historians believe the first Thanksgiving took place many years later. And they also think the reason for the first meal was to mark the settlers' victory over the Pequot Native Americans. Now, if that's the case, the whole point of the meal was not to give thanks to one another. It was not about peace and harmony. It was about victory over the Native Americans. Today, we celebrate Thanksgiving on the third Thursday in November. That's not the actual day the first Thanksgiving took place. Thanksgiving wasn't even an official holiday until 1863, 200-plus years later when Abraham Lincoln declared the first official Thanksgiving Day. It's believed that he chose this day to celebrate the Unionist Civil War victories. So how does that have anything to do with the first meal shared by the Native Americans and the Pilgrims supposedly in 1621? Well, unfortunately, nobody really knows the truth of that first Thanksgiving. The one thing we do know is that the history books got it wrong. When the Native Americans and the Pilgrims got together, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. So what are we celebrating then? Well, over the years, the holiday has become all about commercialism. Not quite to the level of Halloween or Christmas, but still. I mean, why else would the stores open their doors on Thanksgiving night to kick off Black Friday shopping? Am I right? Subscribe for more.
Happy Thanksgiving, America. I'm Donna, and I'm here with my friends to tell you the real history behind this holiday. Growing up, I knew that what they told you in school about Thanksgiving wasn't true. That's not the true story. The true story behind Thanksgiving was, after every killing of a whole village, these European settlers celebrated it, and they called it Thanksgiving. But it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln became president that it became an official holiday.
He ordered 38 Dakota men to be hung for war crimes
after the sacred holiday Christmas.
We take this time to remember our elders who lost their lives due to what really happened. Usually my mom makes a Native American dish for us and we pray.
Growing up, I would be kind of annoyed that they didn't know what actually happened on Thanksgiving and that they're actually celebrating the deaths of many people and many tribes that were lost.
Whether it's to give thanks or to be with your family, you should learn how the holiday was established in the first place.
I'm thankful for being born indigenous to this continent.
I'm thankful that I still have my culture.
I'm thankful that my elders kept our culture alive all these years.
I'm thankful to be indigenous, resilient, and alive.
I'm thankful for us all to be able to stand together, stand strong, and stand as one.
Happy Thanksgiving, America.
So you saw the two videos, right? Not my opinion. Actually, very much so truth, as even historically we've proven it. Now, to those of Israelite descent, to so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives. We read in the Bible already about the decree of unrighteous things. We read in the Bible about the decree of righteous things. Nowhere in the Bible is it written that we are to celebrate that particular worldly, wicked holiday, as it all makes sense as to why it's not written in Leviticus or anywhere else in the Bible. That's the celebration of an attempt to decimate some of Israel. So I want to go back to the Bible real fast. Real fast. We ain't got, it ain't but a couple of things I want to look at real fast. Okay, so we're going to start by going to Revelation 2. Let's go to Revelation chapter 2. And I want to get verses 19 and 20. Verses 19 and 20, all right? Revelation 2 and 19, it says, and I know thy works in charity and service and faith and thy patience and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. This is Yahushua. The reason I brought out verse 19 is so you'll know who he's referring to. He's referring to only Israel, and it is indicated in precepts such as Revelation 2. Well, actually, we can just go up. Let's go up here. Let's go up to verse 9. Look at verse 9. This lets you know who he's talking to. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So he's talking to Israel throughout this whole. He even talks about repentance and everything throughout this whole chapter, but only to Israel, right? So let's go to verse 20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee. So he's saying, I have a charge against you, Israel. I have a charge against you, Israel, because thou sufferest the woman. Now this, I just want you to just bear with me. Because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. Now, I pulled this verse for a specific reason. Now, in this verse, I do truly know that Yahushua is addressing the fact that there was a female that was allowed to lead a congregation. And that's what he's talking about. But there's a key word in here that I want you to look at. And that key word is seduce, followed by the words, my servants. So if you are of Israelite descent, do not be seduced. And I will give you examples as to what I mean by that. But I did want to pull this for the sake of showing you what seducing is and how even your own family are guilty of it. So if you are of Israelite descent, if you are a so-called Negro, a so-called Native, a so-called Hispanic, it behooves you to only keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, to keep his high holy days as you are commanded to, and nothing else. Nothing else. You can only serve one master. All right. So just remember that word seduce for me, if you would. Now let's go to Micah. Let's go to Micah. And it's not off topic, but it's not what I'm going over, but it's very on topic, and you're finna find out why. Micah chapter 7, and we're going to get verses 5 through 6. Now watch this. Trust ye not in a friend, even if it is your mother, your grandmother, your granddaddy, your uncles, your aunties, your cousins. Trust ye not a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. So if they're trying to lead you into a certain thing, first, you're supposed to prove the spirit anyway. That's 1 John 4:1, because that's a type of leading. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom, because that whole holiday has been surrounded by nothing but lies. And I reveal that today. Let's look at verse 6. For the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. When grandma call and say, baby, we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner. We celebrating Thanksgiving at Meemaw house. Don't be seduced. Don't be seduced. Because again, this was decreed by an American president. And if you read Revelations 18, it says, many have been seduced and drunk of her wine. Don't be seduced. In that very same chapter, it tells Israel to come out of her. The ones of Israel that's in her, come out of her. Come out of her ways. Don't do her ways. Don't be seduced even by your own house, your own family. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 29. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 29. Proverbs chapter 29, and I want to get verse 27. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 27, and it reads, an unjust man is an abomination to the just. This is another reason why, especially if you're in this truth. An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. Basically, if you are living righteously or attempting to live righteously, even if you want to attempt for the very first time, by not celebrating the killing of your brethren, understand that is just the opposite of the latter. The ones that do want to observe the killing. And again, I'm only talking to people of Israel descent, whether you in the truth or not. Understand some of the history about some of your people, your beloved brethren. Now, I want you to understand something. A lot of people might say, yeah, but that's grandma. Okay, I tell you what, how about this then? Whether you're in the truth or not, right? Would you say that Yahweh or who the world calls Jesus Christ, is a good example of how to be? If so, good, because I got an example from him. Watch this. Let's go to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew chapter 16. Let's look at a time that something tried to seduce him, right? Let's go to Matthew. We're going to go to chapter 16, and we're going to get verses 21 and 22. Watch this. Watch this. From that time forth began Jesus, or Yahweh, to show unto his disciples how that he must go. So he's telling them some things he must do, right? I'm telling you, you must. The Bible tells you, you must follow the law, statutes, and commandments. The Bible tells you not to cleave to the heathen. The Bible tells you to come out of her, Israel. Come out of her ways, Israel, right? Watch this. And suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. So he's telling them things that have to happen, right? He's telling them prophecy, right? Watch what tries to seduce him through his right-hand man, his ace boom coon, through Peter. Watch who tries to seduce him not to let his people know these things. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord. This shall not be unto thee. Now let's look at Yahweh Shai's response. Because this probably goes over a lot of folks' head as to why he says what he says. But he turned and said unto Peter again, his ace boom coon, his right-hand man, Get thee behind me, Satan. See, Yahweh knew he had to continue to tell his people prophecies, even the prophecy of him, things that he are going to fulfill. But see, Satan tried to seduce him through his loved one. And it happens. Hey, my whole family know I don't do worldly holidays. Every year it happens. Somebody's ass gonna call me. It happens every time. To seduce me. To go in sin. To go in unrighteousness. To go into against the Most High. That's just it. Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me. Why did he not say, get thee behind me? Let's just say, we'll use his old name, Simon. Or get thee behind me, Peter. No, he knew who it was who was attempting to seduce him. He knew exactly what entity it was. For thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. This holiday was decreed not by the Most High. This holiday was decreed by a man. Be not seduced. whether you are in the truth or not, understand, if you can hear my voice, you now have been edified, whether you didn't know about the things or not. Now you have been. Be not seduced. Now, one last thing I want to cover before I get out of here. I started this by saying I'm going to be addressing one of the 17 biblical nationalities and revealing some things about one of the 17 biblical nationalities. That biblical nationality being Esau, Edom, Idumea, Edomites, right? Let's go to Revelation 11 real fast. Almost done. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 12 scriptures. I promise you, I'm almost done, Israel. Revelation 11 and 18. Let's get this real fast. And it reads, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, which is Israel, that is righteous Israel. Not even just Israel. 2/3 of Israel, they're not going to be righteous. 1/3 of the Bible will be. And them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Okay, who destroys the earth? Right? Let's look at this. Who destroys the earth? So let's go to Jeremiah 51 real fast. That was in the New Testament. We're going to Jeremiah chapter 51. And we're going to give verses 25 and 26. Watch this. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. Remember that mountain. Saith the Lord, saith the Most High, which destroyeth all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks, from the mountains, and will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith the Lord. Remember these things, the rocks, the mountains. Remember all this. Because now I want to go to Genesis chapter 36. Because now I'm finna talk to a different biblical. Now I'm talking to a different biblical nationality. We finna find out. Genesis 36. I just want to get verses 6 through 9. So whoever this is that destroys the earth, and it's just one of many that I'm definitely finna point out. They got something to do with mountains and rocks, right? Genesis 36 and 6, and Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and all his beasts and all his substance, which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. Verse 7, for their riches were more than they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Verse 8, thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. Let me go from there to Ezekiel. And then we're going to sum this up when I finish these. Ezekiel, and I want to get chapter 35. I want to get verses 1 through 7. Watch this. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel. Stop. Because the children of Israel are split into 12 tribes. And it does not matter if you did this to the tribe of Judah, or you did it to the tribe of Simeon, or you did it to the tribe of Gad, or you did it to the tribe of Reuben, or you did it to the tribe of Manasseh, or Ephraim, or Issachar. Because you did it to the nation, any of the nation of Israel, by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, and in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, since you didn't mind killing all of these natives, you didn't mind eating them. You did the same to so-called Negroes. You did the same to Judah. You did the same to Issachar and Ephraim. But the Most High says, since you don't mind that, then even blood shall pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. The Most High. Y'all got a debt. And I'm just talking to one of the 17 biblical nationalities outside of the 18th being Israel. Y'all got a debt to pay, a huge debt to pay. Now, in regards to this particular holiday of Thanksgiving, for that too, y'all have a debt to pay. But then you all celebrate that debt. Understand, for the iniquities of your father, even you will answer. And that's per the Bible, not me. If you are of Israel descent, if you are a so-called Negro, Hispanic, or Native, it behoves you to understand, for those who are in the truth and don't observe it, what you truly once observed. And for those who are not in the truth and continue to observe it, what you'll be looking to observe here soon. I only have one last thing. Let me stop sharing my screen real quick, Israel. I have one last thing for you, Israel. And that last thing is, last week I mentioned about our beloved brother, King Shaul. I mentioned him again in the prayer list today, right? Last week I mentioned him, and I read the correspondence that he had with me. And I'm going to read a correspondence that I received to you all again here today. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling it up, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 sec. Let me share my screen. All right. Here we go. As you can see, I received this today, Sunday, the 5th, at 1:06 p.m. It says, Shalom, family, and Messiah, Yahshua. I pray all is well with you and your family. Please continue to guard me in your prayers and support as I strive to endure this time of adversity and hardship. Still in the hospital, so please continue to guard me in your prayers and support that you may be able to send. As you are able, please send further relief along with prayers with understanding. Now, understand, I know of people that have been charitable to our beloved brother. In the description, yet again, for this Truth for Thought, you will find all of his information as you see it right here. You see his Cash App and everything, but I'm also going to include his petition video. At the very least, just go look at his petition videos and pray for our beloved brother. All right. Let me finish this off. I'm going to drop down to this bottom part. It said, brethren, guard me in your prayers. Family, and may Yah grant you his continued infinite mercies, shalom, and patience during these last and evil days. Yah bless brother Shaul Israel. So let me stop sharing my screen. So with that, Israel, I say, everyone that's on a prayer list, I pray that you keep them wrapped in prayer with me. I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't do. If you can be charitable, I ask that you be charitable and donate to our beloved brother, Shaul. There have been instances where people wanted to do it anonymously and have sent it to me for me to send it to them. If that has to be done, or if that is a will of yours, that is fine. That can be accommodated. Outside of that, I want to say it's your brother, King Marcus. I love you all. Israel, I love you all. Until the next time, be it the Most High will. I love you, and I bid you shalom.